Today we'll be rounding numbers using a number line and a place value chart. We're working on skills 1. It says round to the given place value. A says round 471 to the nearest 100. So first we have to know what place value we're rounding to. We're rounding to the nearest 100. If we look at the digit 471 of the number 471, which digit is in the hundredths place? The 4 is in the hundredths place. So we're going to round 4 to the nearest hundredths place using the number line. So if we look at the number line, we look at the ends of the number line. We have 400 and 500. So this number line spans 100, from 400 to 500. So the first thing we're going to do is find the middle of the number line. The middle between 400 and 500 would be 450. This is our midpoint. So halfway between 400 and 500, we have 450. Now we're going to plot 471 on our number line. So we have to put it where it belongs in the number line. So we have 471. So we consider, is 471 greater than 450 or less than 450? So we know that 7 is greater than that 5 in the tens place. So 471 is greater than 450. So I know I'm going to look for this number on this side of the number line. So it's 471, so it's 450, 460, 470, and then the next number would be 471. So 471 would be about right there. So I'm going to put a point to it, and I'm going to write the number 471. That's what 471 would be. Our next step is to consider, is 471 closer to 500, or is 471 closer to 400? And we can see 471 is closer to 500. So 471 rounds to 500. If we're running it to the nearest hundredths place, that means this is the place that's going to change, the hundredths place. So it would be 500. So round 471 to the nearest hundredths. We go to whatever number it's closest to at the end, the 400 or 500. So I know 471 is closer to 500. So my answer would be 500. Now we're going to round it using a place value chart. So we put our number, round 471 to the nearest 100. We put our number in the place value chart. So it's 471. We're going to underline the digit being rounded is 400. That's what we're trying to round this one to the nearest 100. And we're going to circle the place value to the right of it. We're going to we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll circle it. We're going to keep an eye on it. This number is going to tell us what to do to this number. This is in the tens place. We're running into the hundredths place. We're running the hundredths place, but we're looking at the tens place to tell us what to do. The ones place does not determine if we're going to round that to the highest number or it's going to stay the same. We look at the tens place. That's why we circle it. This is the number we're looking at. And we got to remember this rule. If this number in the tens place is 5 or more or greater, we're going to add 1 to this number, to the number being rounded. If this number in the tens place is 4 or less, this number stays the same. So this number doesn't change. So we look at the 7, and the number in the tens place, that's 7. So we compare it. Is 7 greater than 5, or is it 4 or less? And we know 7 is more than 5. That means we're going to add one more to this one. So I can go +1 on this one. So now we can see what's 1 plus 4 is 5. And any number behind the number being rounded will turn to zeros. So that would be 0, and this would be 0. So our answer would still be 500. And that's how we round using a place value chart or a number line. We have to remember this rule. If the number that we keep an eye on, the one we're looking at, is 5 or more, we add 1. If it's 4 or less, this number stays the same. So the circled number is going to tell us what to do to the underlined number. Let's try the next one. B says round 235 to the nearest 100. So we're going to round to the nearest 100. 2 is in the hundreds place, so we're going to round to the nearest 100. So we look at our number line. Our number line starts at 200 and it goes all the way to 300. So we look at the midway point, it would be 250. 250 is halfway between 200 and 300. So now we have to plot this number 235 on our number line. Is 235 less than 250 or is 235 greater than 250? So if we look at the tens place, that's a 3, that's a 5. So 235 is less than 250. So our number is going to be on this side of the line, on the left side of the line. So 235 is 200, 210, 220, 230, and 5 more. So it would be about the midway between 230 and 240. So I'm going to put my point there and write the number 235. So if we look at our number line now, is 235 closer to 200 or is 235 closer to 300? If we look at this, this is closer to 200. So my number 235 would round to 200. It's closer to 200. We'll round down to 200. Now we try it using the place value chart. So first off, we write the number 235. And we're rounding it to the hundredths place. So we're going to underline the digit in the hundredths place, because this is the number that's going to change or stay the same. And we're going to circle this one. We're going to put an eye on the number 3 or the digit 3 in the tens place. So this number is going to tell us what to do to this number, what's going to happen to that number. So we look, is 3 5 or more, or is 3 4 or less? So 3 is less than 4, so we would go here. And it's telling me that this number is going to stay the same. So the 2 would stay the same. And remember, anything to the right of the number being rounded becomes a 0. So that becomes a 0. This becomes a 0. So 235 rounded to the nearest 100 would be 200. Let's try one more. All right. So now this was rounding to the nearest 1,000. C, round 8,284 to the nearest 1,000. So we're rounding it to the nearest 1,000. This is our thousand place. Ones, tens, hundreds. Ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. So my number line should start at 8,000. And it goes 1,000 more to 9,000. So again, we're going to find the midway point. So midway between 8,000 and 9,000 is 8,500. That would be our midway point. So now we're going to plot the number 8,284. So I know 8,284 is less than 8,500. So I know I'm going to plot it somewhere on the left side of 8,500. So this is 8,000, 8,100, 8,200, and 8,300 is too many. So I know it's going to be in between these two. So it's going to be closer to 8,300. So it'll be somewhere about there. And then make a line and write my number, 8,284. So now we look at our number line. 8,284, is it closer to 8,000? Or is 8,284 closer to 9,000? If we look at our number line, it's closer to 8,000. So this number will round down to 8,000. Now we use our place value chart. So we're rounding 8,284 to the nearest thousand. So I'm going to underline the digit we're rounding. So we're rounding to the nearest thousand. So 8,000 is being rounded, and we put a circle around the number to the right of it. So we're going to put an eye on this one, because this number is going to tell us what to do to this number. So we remember our rule. We're going to look at our rule. Is 2 greater than 5? If it is, then we have to add one more to this one. Or is 2 4 or less? So if it is, then this one has to stay the same. So we know 2 is less than 4. That means the thousands place is going to stay the same. So the 8 stays the same. And we remember anything after the digit being rounded will become zeros. So that turns into a 0, that turns into a 0, and this turns into a 0. So 8,284 rounded to nearest thousand would be 8,000. The next one says round 560 to the nearest hundred. So we're rounding it to the nearest hundred. This is the hundreds place. My number line should start at 500, and then it goes 100 more to 600. So the first thing I need to do is find my midpoint between 500 and 600. Midway between 500 and 600 is 550. So now we plot this number, 560, in our number line. I know 560 is greater than 550, so it's going to be plotted to the right of 550. 560 is right here. 560. All right, so we look at 560. Is that closer to 600? Or is it closer to 500? And we can see that it's closer to 600. So this number rounds to 600. Now we try it in the place value chart. We have 560. We want to round it to the nearest hundred. We underline the place value that we're rounding to. We're rounding to the hundreds place. We circle the digit to the right of it. We're going to put an eye on this one, because this one will tell us what to do to the underlined digit. All right, so is 6 greater than 5? 5 or greater? Or is it 4 or less than 4? So we know 6 is greater than 5. That means we have to add one more to the hundreds place. So I'm gonna write it down here. Plus 1. So we know what 5 plus 1 is 6. And any digit behind the number being rounded will turn into a 0. So 560 rounded to the nearest hundred is 600. IE says round 68,943 to the nearest 10,000. So now this one, we're rounding to the 10,000s place. So this is 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. So we're rounding to 60,000. So the thousands, 10,000s place. So this is 60,000. My number line starts at 60,000, and it's going to go 1,000 more, 10,000 more to 70,000. So in between 60,000 and 70,000 is 65,000. That's my midpoint. So my number is 68,943. We have to plot that in our number line. So it's 68,000 is 65,000, 66,000, 67,000, 68,000. So 943. So I know it's going to be closer to 69,000 because 943 is closer to 1,000 than it is to 0. So it'll be somewhere about here. So I put my point there, and then I put 68,943. And now we just compare. Is 68,943 closer to 70,000 or closer to 60,000? If we can look at our number line, it's closer to 70,000. So my answer would be 70,000. And now we use a place value chart. We write our number 68,943. And then again, we use the same rules we use for the rest of them. We underline the digit that's being rounded. So the place value being rounded is the 10,000s place. We're rounding it to the nearest 10,000. And we put a circle, put an eye on the place value right next to it. So we're going to keep an eye on the 8 because this digit is going to tell us what to do to the digit being rounded. So we look again our rules. Is 8 5 or greater? We add 1 to it, or is it 4 or less? It'll stay the same. So we know that 8 is greater than 5, so it's 5 or greater. So we're going to add 1 to the digit being rounded. So we go plus 1. So now we go 6 plus 1. This rounds up to a 7. And any digit behind the digit being rounded becomes a 0. So that becomes a 0. This one becomes a 0. That becomes a 0. And this becomes a 0. So my new number is 70,000. 68,943 rounds to 70,000. And the last one says round 4,597 to the nearest 10,000. So we have 4,597. We want to round it to the nearest 10,000. So we're rounding it to the thousands place. That's the thousands place. So our number line should start at 4,000 and it goes 1,000 all the way to 5,000. So in between 4,000 and 5,000 is 4,500. This is our midpoint. So we know our number is 4,597. So I know this number is greater than our midpoint, 4,500. So we're going to plot it on this side, to the right side. So 4,597, it doesn't quite make it to 4,600. So it would be somewhere there. 4,597. So we look, is it closer to 4,000 or is it closer to 5,000? It's closer to 5,000. So 4,597 rounds to 5,000. Now let's try it on the place value chart. So we know 4,597, and we want to round it to the thousands place. So I put a line, underline the digit being round to. We're going to round to the thousands place, and we circle the number that we're going to keep an eye on. We're going to put our eye on this one because this one's going to tell us what to do to the underlying digit. So we've got to remember our rules. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 to the underlying digit. If it's 4 or less, the underlying digit stays the same. So we know this is 5 or more, so we're going to add 1 to the digit being rounded. So 4 plus 1 is 5, and everything behind that turns into a 0. So 4,597 rounds to 5,000.